Hi, I'm Zainab Rights, and you're watching TMJ News Network's latest episode. We're going to be hearing from Miko Peled, a two-time author, an advocate for Palestinian human rights, and a former Israeli general's son. We're going to be hearing from him from Washington, D.C. in America on what's unfolding in occupied Palestine and the overall sentiment from Americans in D.C. Hi, and welcome to TMJ News. Miko, thank you so much for being with us today. You're an author, you're a former Israeli general's son, and you've been a staunch advocate for Palestinian rights and resistance. Can you tell us about the overall sentiments of the aftermath of what's going on in DC, where you're at with all of this unfolding?
Well, I mean, the official line. First of all, thank you for having me on your show. The official line in Washington D.C. is, of course, lock, stock, and barrel pro-Israel. It's funny how I've been walking around with this sweatshirt that I have that says Palestine on it, and I've had a few remarks from people driving by, people walking by, mostly very positive ones. But I'm always amazed that we don't see the type of mass support that Palestinians should be getting.
And why do you think this is happening?
Well, historically, this is the reality in the United States. This is the reality in Europe. Israel has a very strong PR machine that's been operating here for at least 100 years, so even long before the state of Israel was established, that has managed to influence very effectively politicians, influence very effectively the media, education system, the culture. I mean, they're operating in every sphere. It's ingrained in American culture to support Israel. It's in the churches, all the different churches, the black churches, the Latino churches. It's in all the different denominations. Certainly in all the synagogues, almost all the synagogues are Zionist.
Mhm.
And so they've been working very, very hard to get to this point where support for Israel it goes without saying.
How do you believe America is going to be responding to the rise of the Palestinian resistance? And then, countries like Lebanon, even Iran, Yemen, Iraq now as well have shown their support. Where do you think the trajectory of this is going to go?
That depends how serious the support that you're describing is. I mean, the Saudi foreign minister announced that talks about normalization are off the table right now. Well,
Mhm.
that's a very good step. That's an important step, and that's very positive. A question is he serious? Is this going to last, or is this just an announcement of appeasement? And behind closed doors, they're still negotiating. Again, all these other countries, Arab countries and Muslim countries, I think carry a great deal of leverage, but they don't use it. In 1973, 50 years ago, after the war, there was an embargo, an oil embargo, which the West felt, and people were not doing business with Israel. It was very clear. The African countries, the Asian countries, the Arab countries, and Muslim countries, certainly nobody was doing business with Israel. You couldn't get a Japanese car. Israelis could not buy a Japanese car when I was growing up. There was no such thing. And so that was, they used their leverage at the time. Now sadly, they've been bought and sold by Israel. I think one of the biggest concerns we have now is this trend of normalization that's going around the Arab and Muslim world and in Africa as well. These are countries that used to be part of the non-aligned movement. They were supportive of the fight for justice around the world, the different struggles for justice around the world. They're anti-imperialist mostly. Now we don't, that's no longer the case. Israel is everywhere. Israel has 40 diplomatic missions in Africa. They're in Malaysia, they're in Indonesia, pushing very hard for normalization, and of course, the Arab countries. So again, it all depends on how serious the Arab and the Muslim world decide to be on this issue, and how much support they're willing to give to the Palestinian cause in terms of diplomacy, in terms of sanctions against Israel, pushing and demanding sanctions against Israel, using their leverage with oil, using their whatever leverage they have in order to demand sanctions against Israel and a boycott of Israel. That remains to be seen.
Why is this so significant? Why is this different from the past attempts at resistance?
Well, this is unprecedented. This is a brilliant military operation that was carried out meticulously, and even Israeli generals in the Israeli press can't help themselves but praise what just happened here, this military operation. It was kept secret for a very long time. It was meticulously planned. It was well led. It was brilliantly executed. It caught the entire Israeli security system, security apparatus completely off guard. All the intelligence services, all the redundancies that they're supposed to have, all the, everything that they have in the air, the drones, the security, the information, all, every single agency, every single apparatus that they have to prevent this kind of thing failed, which I'm not surprised actually, but most people are surprised. And so this is a huge thing. And of course, Palestinian fighters in Israeli towns taking over a military base. They took over a military base. Apparently they took the general who's the commander of the base, commander of the Gaza brigade has been taken prisoner. And so this is unprecedented. Nothing like this has ever happened in Israel. To Israelis, I should say.
So now what? Where do we go from here? What do you think we're going to be seeing more of
Well,
as
eventually they're going to negotiate. I mean, Israel is now behaving like a gangster who's been humiliated and needs to somehow take vengeance because of the humiliation. And that's what they're doing now. The brutality that we're seeing in Gaza right now is just that. It's a gangster mentality, a gangster that was humiliated and has to show that, they're somehow still have the strength to punish people. Well, everybody knows Israel has gunpowder. Everybody knows Israel has firepower. Everybody knows Israel has fancy jets. But what now the world knows that fighter for fighter, tactic for tactic, the Palestinians by far are superior to anything Israel has. And again, they're trying to overcompensate by bombing, going crazy. But at the end of the day, they're going to have to negotiate. That's how these things
but
always
at
end.
the end of the day, even if they are going to behave with gangster-like tactics, bomb indiscriminately, just start killing civilian population, at what point will the international community, including America, bring them to accountability that, these
They
are
won't.
civilian lives, these are children's
They won't.
lives.
They won't. They won't. The only way. Well, so first of all, they're going to negotiate. So we know that whether it happens tomorrow or next week, we don't know for sure. But at the end of the day, the bombing stops and people have to negotiate. And the Palestinians have some very, very powerful negotiating tools right now. They've shown what they're capable of doing militarily. Plus, they have all these prisoners and all these POWs. And so that's a very strong negotiating card. The only way that anybody internationally is going to step up and tell Israel they have to stop is if people in America demand it. Not going to happen. There's no politician in America, not a single politician in America is going to put themselves up and say, okay, Israel has got to stop. But if people stand up, people demand of their elected officials that they reject Israel, that they impose sanctions on the state of Israel, that they stop sending weapons, to Israel. How and when that happens is up to us. If we stand up and demand it of our elected officials, it'll happen. If we don't, it's not going to happen. We have to stand up and we have to push this forward.
A lot of people are looking at this, even people who, who have supported Palestine, but now suddenly are unhappy at this new way of taking up arms and armed resistance. What do you have to say to that?
Well, it's interesting, some of the strongest pro-Palestinian activists came out with, harsh criticism against the attack. It's absurd to me that when Palestinians stand up, they get criticized. If you support the Palestinian cause, then people have to realize that Palestinians have a right to resist in whatever way they feel is the right thing to do at a particular moment. So, activists don't like when there's violence, and they don't like when there's rocks, and they don't like when there's this, and they don't like when there's that. And they want the Palestinians to be good little people and obey, and so that they, as liberals, can support them comfortably. Well, that's not how it works. It's like some very smart lady said to me the other day, people think that decolonizing is writing an article. Decolonizing is not just sitting around writing articles. If it was, that'd be great. If the colonizers read the articles and reached their own conclusions, then everything would be great, but that's not how it works. Decolonizing is more complicated than just writing articles. And there are serious consequences when you're a colonizer and a thief and a murderer, and you're dancing around somebody else's land right a few kilometers away from where people are dying of thirst and children are dying of curable diseases. Never mind the bombing for a minute. Then there will be consequences. There will be consequences. I mean, what do people think, that this is not going to happen? So, this is what, if people need to decide where their values stand, because I always say the issue of Palestine is about values. It's not about politics. If you believe in justice, if you believe in humanity, if you believe in people's, in human rights, then you support Palestine and you support the Palestinian cause. Otherwise, you need to shut up and realize that you're supporting racism and violence and brutality. It's quite simple, really. But sometimes you have to pick a side. And here, the right and the wrong are very clear, crystal clear.
You have access to, like you said, family and friends in Israel. What is their whole perspective in all this? Is it what we see on social media? Are people trying to get out? What is the reality on ground?
In the past, when there have been, Qassam rockets, like in 2021, I mean, there were Qassam rockets falling in my family's neighborhoods. Tel Aviv airport was closed for 10 days or 2 weeks. Cafes were full, the restaurants were full, the beaches were full. People were, living their life like everything is fine. This time, people are a lot, are really scared. So I suspect that they're not as happy and celebratory. Plus, they were hit with almost 1,000 casualties in 2 days. Never mind, and plus the injured, you had a higher number of injured, and this huge number of prisoners taken. And so morale now is at a completely different place, because it's not like, well, we're killing these Arabs, the Palestinians, because they deserve it. It's like, oh my God, they are now in our backyard. And by the way, all the systems that were supposed to protect us failed. And the government and the military that we had a faith in completely is gone. The government is nowhere to be seen. There's no spokesperson. There's nobody telling people what to do. There's nobody explaining to people. The government is silent. There's like a gag order. So people have nobody to ask, nobody to get information from. And of course, this great military that everybody always thought was invincible has proven itself to be absolutely an absolute failure, which again doesn't surprise me. But this is to a lot of people a great shock.
And you're not afraid of saying all this and then having to travel back?
Afraid of what? I'm not in Gaza. I'm not on the oppressed side of this issue. I never have been.
Wow, this was very powerful. I mean, afraid of what's to come in the next few weeks.
I'm afraid for my Palestinian friends. Look, one of my best friends, Issa Amro, who's an activist in El Khalil in Hebron, on October the 7th, he was arrested, beaten for 12 hours, tortured. Nobody knew where he was. Not the Red Cross, not his lawyer, and he's a very well known internationally. He's got a huge following. He's very well known internationally. Nobody knew where he was, and then they released him. So my concern every morning when I wake up is, for my Palestinian brothers and sisters, their children, are their children going to be orphans tomorrow morning? Is his child, Issa's child, going to be an orphan tomorrow morning? So that's my fear. This is what keeps me awake at night, knowing that this is going on and that there's absolutely nobody for Palestinians to turn to, nobody that's going to protect them. Nobody talks about safety and security for Palestinians. The life of Palestinians has no value, and Israelis can kill Palestinians at will and in enormous numbers, and there are no consequences. That is scary. That is absolutely terrifying.
Can I ask you something controversial?
Why, until now, it was not controversial.
This is personal. Like, if you truly believe Israel is the wrong state, it's racist, it's immoral, Zionism is immoral, why would you travel to that place?
Well, first of all, for me, everything is personal. So this entire conversation is personal.
It probably is, yes.
Well, I traveled to Palestine. I don't call it Israel. Palestine is now occupied. Palestine is now in the grips of a brutal apartheid regime. There's a great deal of work that needs to be done there. And so most of my work is done here, but there's work to be done there. I have got brothers and sisters, Palestinian brothers and sisters who are sweating blood. And so I go there for them. I go there to be with them. I go there to see them. When I travel, I don't see myself as going to Israel. I don't use that. I don't use that word at all. I don't use that name to refer to this country at all. And so I go to Palestine because I think it's important to be in Palestine, and I encourage other people to go to Palestine. I think it's extremely important to travel and visit Palestine, not the West Bank and East Jerusalem, but all of Palestine, and to see what happened, what the horrible conditions in which the Palestinian Bedouin live, and in Jerusalem, and in Lid, and Haifa, and sorry, Lid and Jaffa, Ramle, and in the Galilee. You have to see what it's like, what Palestinian life is like throughout the entire country, and the West Bank, of course. So I think there's a lot of work that needs to be done there. So I encourage people to go all the time. Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Miko, for answering all of my questions. And it was an honor having you here. I hope to see more of you and your important work when you
Thank you.
travel to Palestine.
Thank you.
And I hope that you all benefited from this conversation.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining us for today's episode. Please be sure to like, share, and subscribe, and follow us along in our latest Muslim Brew newsletter, where you'll get the full uncensored versions of all interviews as well as all exclusive content. And follow us on Telegram as well for exclusive updates.